Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd have a look at this. Now what we've got here is the sound desk which I picked up off eBay, which I'm going to use down in my office to be able to connect all the vintage computers and my main PC up to my audio system down there. And like I said, I used to have a nice Spirit Folio desk which I've acquired from work basically, because it was they decided it was beyond economic repair and it didn't take me very long to repair it. But I lent that someone and I never got it back, unfortunately, so I've been out without a little sound desk. I do have some slightly larger sound desks, but they're just too big to use where I want them in my office. So I saw this on eBay, sold as seen without a power supply, and I think I paid 18 quid for it delivered, which was like 14 quid for the desk plus a little bit of delivery on top. Which isn't bad, because these desks are about getting on for about 150 quid, 130, 150 quid brand new, so I didn't mind paying that for it. Problem is, obviously, we don't have the power supply for it. So what I thought we'd do in this video is crack into it and see if we can figure out what we need for a power supply. See if we can make one and get this thing up and running and actually give it a test out and see if it's got any other faults on it. I'm not too worried, to be honest, even if it has got faults on it, because I did spend quite a lot of my time with my previous employer repairing sound desks, because our sound engineers, we used to hire sound engineers in every now and again, and when you hire in help like that, they can tend to be a little bit, shall we say, hard on the equipment. So I did spend quite a lot of my time repairing sound desks. So like I said, if there is a fault with it, I'm sure I can get it working again. But anyway, without further ado, let's crack inside this thing, because I've never been in one of these tiny little Yamahas before. Most of the desks that we had were like Soundcraft. We had Spirit, we had some Mackies which were really nice, but they took an IEC in and had mains in. They didn't have a separate power supply like these do. Let's have a look on the back of it and we'll see. That's the power input there. And it's 3-pin, it says AC adapter in. Now most sound desks that I've worked on, that's exactly right, they actually take AC in. They actually take two lots. You've usually got 0 and then say 12 volt AC and 12 volt AC, because the way that the op amps in these work is they need a split power supply. And they usually do all the rectification stuff inside the actual desk, so hopefully this is going to be the same as that, and we're just going to have to provide it with some 2 lots of AC, low voltage, probably between 12 and 24 volts is for the norm for these. So it'll have a 0, probably 12 to 24, 0, 12 to 24, like that. But like I said, we'll crack inside it, we'll see what it is. The only problem is, I have been trying to find out exactly what the power supply of this thing should be, and Yamaha are being rather tight-lipped with any service data for these things. Basically, if it breaks down, they want you to send it in to one of their service people. They will not give you any information, and as I couldn't find a close-up picture of the power supply online, again, I can't actually figure out from that what the power supply should be, so we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and figure it out. But that's not a problem anyway. It's going to be a bit of fun. I think I've took the wrong screw. Yeah, I've took the screws out there thinking to help take the bottom off, and they've taken the little plate off inside which holds the thing for connecting it to a mic stand. These tiny little desks, they actually have the ability that you could literally like clip them to a mic stand like that and use them like that. I've just made that loose and rattle around inside, but that's not a problem. We'll sort that out in a minute. What we want to do is get the back off it so we can actually see what we've got inside it. That's one screw out. That's 2 screws out there. Okay. We can always stick that bit back when we've got in here. Now come on. What else? Can we put all those little Allen bolts? That's nice of them, isn't it? Use normal screws over some place and then little Allen bolts somewhere else. Now where is my box of little bits for my screwdriver. Where have they gone? Ah, there they are. Hopefully we've got something in here that'll fit. That's a bit big. Put that one there. That's a bit big. That's a bit big. I'm sure I will have something that'll fit it. That's a bit small. And that, yeah, that's just right. There we go, that's one out. Two out. Three out. That's four out. There we go. Let's see if we can get inside it now. I think that's coming now. That's that side off. Now what's holding it? Must be something else holding it in there. Where have I missed a screw? Have they hidden some underneath these feet? I bet you know they have. Let's have a look underneath these feet. No! I wonder if there's something at the front there that's stopping it from... Ah! Another screw hidden. There we go. That's it. Hopefully now we should be able to get in it. There we go. That's better. We can screw that plate which I inadvertently took off back down. Oops. We'll just do that now so we don't lose it. Some very nice shielding in here, I will say. I'm certainly concerned about the shielding on it. Let's see where this goes. That fits there like that, so we'll just screw that into place so we don't lose it. Let's get these little screws. Okay. Get that one in. That one in. Right. Put that to one side and let's get the sound desk in and have a look. So we have got mains input there. Through that switch and onto the board we've got a standard ground there, then we've got our two power inputs there. What we are going to have to do is we're going to have to take this whole thing apart, which is going to be an absolute pain in the backside, so we can actually figure out whether it wants DC or AC into here. I have a feeling it might be a DC input on this one. And hopefully it looks like we don't have to do too much dismantling like you do on some sound desks to actually get the board out, because I think these all slip through apart from the bigger ones. I think most of these slip through rather than having to take. Most sound desks, when you have to actually take the PCB out, you literally have to strip everything off the sound desk to actually get in there, and it's a right pain in the backside to get it all back together. It takes hours. That's why sound desk repair can be rather expensive. It's purely down to the man hours needed to actually strip the thing down and get in there. Yeah, we will have to, with all these nuts off here, take all these screws out just to be able to get the main PCB out. So let's get the right tool to do that with. Well, not the right. Well, we've got a spanner in here, yeah. Let's do it semi-properly. The good thing is they don't need a huge amount of current on the power supply to drive these, because they're not actually, there's no power amplifier in here. You're just running some op amps. And so the power supply doesn't, it's a little bit complicated, because like I say, it probably will need the two rails, but it won't need a huge amount of current, so it doesn't have to be a massive big power supply that's able to produce multiple amps. Probably an amp. 500 milliamps will be more than enough, especially for such a tiny little desk as this, which is always good. Another advantage of going in like this is at least we can have a good look at the board, make sure there's nothing obviously burnt on there. We can actually get it up and running before we reassemble it, and then we can at least actually test that everything works. I'll probably give the all the pots a good shot of switch cleaner as well while we're in there. Make sure everything is absolutely a-okay. So like I said, this desk, we can get this desk up and running. It is a nice size. It will do exactly what I want in my office. So I will be keeping it in for the office. You know, it's not something I'm just going to repair and flog on. Not that I get a huge amount for it. I mean, these things in fully working order, second hand, probably only worth about, say, 50 quid. They are definitely at the lower end. You know, it's your home recording studio kind of equipment, or your little one-man band pub singer type guy. That's the type of person that would buy one of these new and use it. That's not dissing any of them type of people. It's just they don't need a better desk than that, really. This will do everything you want it to. They aren't bad little desks. These little small, low channel, low features. You don't need all the effects on them. You really don't. I've worked with far too many little like pub singer type artists who have these ridiculous desks with all these effects on, and quite frankly it's the effects making them sound anywhere near decent. If you've actually got any talent, you can get away with a very basic desk like this, provided you know how to use it and you know how to set it up alright. I've got a slightly bigger screwdriver than that. Let's see what other bit I've got in there. They're just super tight. The screwdriver fits alright, it's very tight. There we go. That one, a last screw, and hopefully we can get the board out of the case. There we are, that's the last one out. Let's lift the... Have we missed anything? Oh yeah, we've got to get all the washers off now. Another advantage of this is I can actually clean the case down properly and get all the muck and grime off it. There isn't a huge amount on this one, but you always get a little bit. I think we'll have to take the power jack out the back as well at this point. Yeah. Take that out. There we go. There's the last of them washers coming off. And we can give that a really good clean down and get all the muck and the rubbish off it. Make it look really like brand new. And we're in. Let's get the spacers out of the way. Make sure we don't lose any. There we go. We'll get an idea what we've got as the power supply. We've got a pair of fuses, some MOVs, yeah, we've got AC. We definitely got an AC input with this thing because we've got a pair of rectifier diodes there. There'll be one for one side and one for the other. So I'm guessing one side will be like minus 12 volts, the other one will be positive 12 volts. We shouldn't have a problem there. We just need to feed this thing some AC. Now, what can we use to feed some AC into it? I've got, these might do quite nicely. Not very big, but they should be just about up to the job. I've got a load of these little transformers. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll try connecting up. What do these give out? I think we can get about, they're centre tap these, so they've got 9.5 volts, 0 and 9.5 volts, so I think we can probably use a couple of these, use one for each side and see what we can do. So bear with me a minute, I'm just going to lash up a couple of these transformers on a little bit of a test rig and we will see if we can get this desk to power up from them. So join me back in a second. Right, I'm back, and I figured out basically by just reversing engineering how the phantom power circuit works here, that this thing needs 2 lots of 24 volts AC to make it run. Basically it uses one lot of 24 to produce a negative 24 volt input and a positive 24 volt input to drive the op amps on the board, and it also uses them together through them two diodes up here and these capacitors here to provide the 48 volts phantom power that the desk that it's used to provide phantom power for various microphones. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to go down into the cellar and see if I've got any more of them old 24 volt lighting transformers for outside lighting. I think 2 of them should provide enough oomph to actually power this board up. So I'll be back shortly when I've managed to rig something up with them and we can actually get to testing this board. So again, back very shortly. Okay, I'm back, and it is actually the following day. I went away to find them 24 volt transformers, and I was away. I got an emergency call from one of my tenants, so I had to kind of forget about this project and go away and unblock the sink. So yeah, this is now the following day, and it's actually a good thing that happened, really, because while I was waiting for them to call me back, I got on the internet and I actually found a replacement power supply for this. And although I wasn't interested in buying it because it was about £30, and like I said, I only paid 18 quid delivered for the whole mixing desk. But zooming in on the picture, I actually found out what voltage this is designed to run on, and it's actually 18.5 volts. It's basically it's two 18.5 volt AC inputs with a common ground in between, which is, as I've said before, how a lot of these sound desks work. They have AC in, and they have a centre common ground on them. So that got me to thinking, them 24 volt transformers I had would be no good, because obviously 24 volts, you can get away with a volt or so, but 24 volts when it should have 18.5 volts is pushing it a bit, and I would risk probably damaging something. So it got me thinking about these again, which I've got a big pile of these. I bought, I think, well, it was a company that was clearing out the storerooms, and I think I bought 20 of these for about £5 delivered or something like that. And what they are is they're a if we look on the back here, they're 120 centre tapped transformer. Well, they've got two 120 volt windings on the primary, and they've got two 9.5 volt windings on the secondary. So you wouldn't really think they're any good for this, but what you can do is we can put the two 120 volt windings in series and have a 240 volt primary winding. And we can do the same with the two 9.5 volt windings, put them in series, and we get a 19 volt output, which is close enough. But that's only half of the transformer that we need to actually run this. So, as I said, I have loads of them. So what I did was I took two of them, and I've basically wired two of them. I'll show you what I've come up with. And that is, it looks scary, and it does look rather scary, this thing, but promise you it will be safe when I've finished it. Let's just zoom you in so you can actually see what I've actually built here. So what we've got there, oops, there we go, is we've got two of them little, where have I just put it? What have I just done with my spit? There it is. We've got two of them little transformers there, like that, down here. And what I've done is, obviously they've got the mains coming in. Oh, let me just yeah, we are switched off, so it is safe for me to do something around this. We've got the mains coming in the centre here. I've just got it really rigged up. It's on my variac at the moment because I wanted to just bring the voltage up nice and safe, make sure nothing's smoked, and I've got it connected up through my safe block with just some wires on it like this for now. But basically what I've done is I've connected the two primary windings there in series on both transformers, and then linked the both transformers in parallel. So you've got 240 volt AC coming in on them two orange wires there. The two yellow wires there bridge the two 120 volt windings to 240 volt windings. And then on the outside, on this side here, we've bridged the 9.5 volt and the 9.5 volt together, obviously to give us like 19 volts there. And we've done the same on that side there, so that's bridged up together. And then the black wire here is our centre taps. That's basically the two 0 volts on the two transformers are connected together like that. That's what this black wire that goes across the transformer is there. And that goes to our common ground, our common ground point. And then from that 19 volts we've got that red wire coming off there, and from that 19 volts we've got our wire coming off there. Now I didn't have the connector to connect this up to the mixing desk, so what I did is I took an old XLR plug like that, and I pulled the inners out of it, basically the connections from the inside of it, because that wouldn't even fit the plug. I did try actually just filing that down a little bit to fit, but what it turns out basically is that there, the spacing there is wrong, so it wouldn't actually fit in the connector. So I pulled the spring contacts out of it, and basically I soldered them like that onto the end. So this is just for initial testing. I will probably actually splash out like the £3 or £4 and buy the correct plug for it. But we'll plug that basically, if we just bring you down a little bit, we've got, oops, move some of my wiring so you can see what I'm doing. So we've got the plug from the back of the mixing desk there, and these and providing you plug them in the right places, which is basically the furthest away from the key is our common ground, so that's the black wire at the bottom there, and it doesn't matter which way around we get the other two wires because they both produce exactly the same 19 volts AC. So we've got them pushed in like that, we've got that all hooked up, and what I've done, I've got the let me just zoom you back out now. We've got the sound desk, look, it's still all bare and naked on my desk, but we've got the sound desk, and I've got my just got an El Cheapo tablet. This had music on it when I got it, so I'm not going to delete the music off it. It's really handy for testing. We've currently got hopefully this won't get pulled up on copyright either. It's P Nova Demos and B-Sides, so we can use this for testing, and I'll show you basically what we've got. Turn that down there, and we'll power it up. Like I say, I've still got it connected all up to the variac, but the variac is wound up to 240 volts, so we have got a good 240 volts going into our transformer here. Can you see that on the transformer? It's just off shot. It's just off shot there, but that's all connected up to this mixing desk now. I'm using some adapters here. That's just a 3.5-inch jack coming out of my tablet to the phonos, and I've got some phono to 6.3 jack adapters on there, just purely so I can go into both the jack connectors on here, and I can go into the phono connectors, because this desk's quite nice. It's got a lot of stereo channels on it, so it's absolutely ideal for what I want. And then all I've done is this is the output. That's the main stereo output from the desk, and I've just got it really shoddily lashed up to an old pair of PC speakers just for testing. Like I said, when this is working and it's all set up in my office, these will be going into my Quad 303 amplifier. But I can actually show you as far as we've got. If we power the variac up and we switch the desk on, I don't know if you'll see that, the power light's lit on the desk. And if we we'll put this in channel 1 and 2. Let's just make sure we're putting it in right. We'll put it in line. So you've got a mic input there on the XLR, then you've got a line input, and that's what's called an insert for putting like effects units and stuff like that in. That's a slightly differently wired cable that goes in there. Like I said, we're not going to be using the inserts in this instance, so we'll just for initial testing, we'll just use the first two channels. Now these are the only two mono channels on the desk. All the rest of the channels on this desk are actually stereo, which is really good for what I want to use it for. But having the two mono channels is quite good as well. I mean, it means I can basically, with them, I can plug a microphone in, or anything else that's just mono, or just using one of them. Like I said, I've got a SM57 microphone, otherwise known in the industry as the Hammer, because basically you can drive a nail in one of them things and it'll still work. But that's basically, so there I'm going with my microphone inputs. Like I said, the rest are all stereo inputs. But what I will show you is that this is actually working, and it's actually working quite nicely. If I start playing some music, let's see, make sure we've got the volume turned down. We'll start with the volumes turned down. We'll play some music. Right, there we go. If we bring up these channels, we'll bring up the output. As you can see there, the desk does actually seem to work really quite nicely. All our bass and treble controls work. So I don't actually think there was really anything at all wrong with this desk. It just didn't have a power supply with it. It's a good desk. There's not even any crackle on any of the controls on it. Just turn that down. But yeah, so we've got a really nice working Yamaha sound desk for under 20 quid, which is quite good really. I'll just show you that basically all the channels do work. The next channels are actually stereo, so instead of connecting it like we just did, we just connect it. This channel doesn't have an insert on it. Only the first two channels actually have the insert on them. So in this way you could plug a microphone in, but instead, as well as plugging a microphone in like that, you can also use these two as left and right, and it's, like I say, it's a stereo channel, this one. So again, if we just turn that up, It's on that fader there. And that all works. We can also, it's full balance, so we can pan right, pan left. And that, I mean, you won't be able to hear it on the camera, but I can hear the two speakers, the two PC speakers that I've got panning right and left when I turn it like that. So the stereo does definitely work on it. We'll just try the next channel. Again, this is another stereo channel. We can increase that. We can hear bass and treble. All works nicely. Try the next channel. And what we'll show you on the next channel is that the actual phono inputs work as well. This is mirrored, the next one, so you can either use jacks there or you can use RCA phono jacks. So this is great for connecting the old computers up just using a 3.5mm jack to phono connections like that. You can literally plug this in up there. And that works great. It's on that fader there. And you feel like falling down. I'll carry you home tonight. Turn that back down. I'll show you the next one's working. And again, that one works. Now the next ones are actually, we've got some outputs here. I think we've got the last, I'm not sure what them are, but basically what we've got a record output there, which could go into a tape recorder, a data, whatever you wanted to. We're actually running off the main outputs. It also has an auxiliary output, which is on this side here. That's got a separate fader. It also has a headphone output on it, which I've not tested yet, but if everything else is working, I can't see why the I'll turn that down just in case the copyright police do come and attack me. But yeah, basically the desk works absolutely fine. Oops, we'll unplug that and switch that them crappy speakers off. And that is all working through my little lashed up power transformer there. So what I'm going to do next is I'll reassemble all the desk, and I will try and make some form of enclosure for this transformer, because obviously we can't use it like that. That is absolutely lethal. There's mains voltages you can touch on there and all sorts. So I'll come up with something better to actually enclose that in, obviously with a switch and a fuse and everything else that it needs. But I'm absolutely super pleased. I was expecting to actually have to do some repair work to the desk. I mean, I weren't expecting it just to not have a power supply. I mean, usually when these come and they don't have a power supply, it's because someone's kept the power supply because the desk's failed and they've bought a new desk and thought, oh, I'll keep the power supply as a spare and just flog the desk off. So I'm absolutely super pleased that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this desk. It was a real bargain at what I paid for it. So, like I said, join me in a little bit when I've put this in a case and we can actually get it set up properly, and hopefully I can then show it you all how it should be all back in its cabinet. So, back in a sec. Okay, we're back, and as you can see, I've got all the desk rebuilt. That took me about 40 minutes to get that bugger back together. It was the little white posts in here that you that basically separate the PCB from the bottom of the case and keep everything in the right place. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the little buggers. And no matter what, wherever I went to put the desk back together, one of the little damn things would slip out and I'd have to mess about and put it all back together. Anyway, finally, I got it back together. I got all the controls back on. I did give the pots a really quick little blast of contact cleaner before I put them back together, and then give them a good whittle like that, just to I mean, none of them felt crackly, but that'll just future-proof them from a little bit. Because they do start to crackle after a while. So just because I didn't want to be opening this back up in another couple of months' time, because it got a crackly pot on it, I did go through them all and just give them a tiny little squirt each, and just a little bit of a wiggle. But we are on to building the power supply, and what I found was this was the case off an old laptop power supply, which definitely died a death. It was an old Vigilant laptop, a 386 laptop that I bought in to see if I could get going, and unfortunately the power supply had literally committed suicide, and I think it put quite a high spike voltage onto the laptop, and it killed the laptop as well. And this power supply has been lying around in my junk box for a while. I've been salvaging various bits off it. It didn't go to waste. Like I said, the IEC connector went onto one project, and another thing went onto another project, and so on. Like I said, they never go to waste. And the case itself actually was going into the I don't think I'm ever going to use that, it better go in the bin pile. And I spotted it, and I thought that's going to be absolutely perfect to house the PSU for this this mixing desk. So what I'm just looking at really here now is, let's just move that out of the way, and let's get you let's perhaps get you up there and zoomed in a little bit. There we go. So I'm just looking at, I think it's all going to fit really nicely, this. Where the old IEC output was there, let's just put the case together like that. That's where the IEC would have been. And we can fit a power switch, so we can actually properly turn the power supply off. The original power supplies for these mixing desks, it's just like a standby button on the back of the mixing console, and to turn the power off properly you actually have to physically unplug the power supply from the mains. With this we actually have a proper isolation switch, so I don't have to go rooting under my desk if I want to unplug the thing. I can literally switch it off and it's isolated, it's properly isolated. So I thought this is perfect for it, this little case. I've just drilled a hole there, as you can see, and put a fuse holder in. I'm just need to screw that in position now. Again, that's salvaged off another piece of junk. That's actually off, do you remember that old rack that I ripped down and I'm building the ZX81 into? Well, that's actually off that. So like I said, nothing ever goes to waste in here. I always find a use for every bit of junk that I break up. Anything that I can't save or I have no use for, it doesn't just go into the bin, it all goes into my junk piles, and it always comes in handy in the end. So there we've got a nice fuse, and that's going to be on the main side, so it's going to be properly isolated. Obviously the desk itself actually has its own internal protection fuses, so we don't have to worry about the low voltage side, but I did want a proper fuse on the high voltage side. So yeah, there we go, we've got a proper fuse on it now. My little transformer bodge fits in the cabinet quite nicely. It will go in, I think we decided which way it was going to go in. I think it's going to go in that way, like that. And what I'll do is I'll get the old hot glue gun down. What I don't want to do is put nuts and bolts through here, because you've got the potential of anything happened to this. Bring you up a little bit, you can't see what I'm pointing at there. I don't want to use nuts and bolts through here unless I had some nylon ones or something, because if anything happened and these cores became live, then obviously the nuts and bolts going through the bottom of the case would also become live, and you don't want that situation. So I think we're going to use good old hot glue, and we're going to glob that down with hot glue like that. So the power switch is going to go in there. I've got a proper power lead here. What I've done, I found it's already got a 30 plug with a 3 amp fuse in it, so that's ideal. 2 core to go in, because obviously this is a double insulated, it doesn't need to have a 3 core. And I've got a piece of old 3 core mains flex, which I'm going to use. I'm going to connect for now I'm going to connect these connectors that I took off there onto, and I'm just going to put them onto the end of here, and I'll colour code it up so it can plug into the back of the mixing console, and hopefully that will be the power supply. That's how it's all going to work. I think that's going to actually work quite neat and nicely. So I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to bother showing you me putting all this together, because this video is already getting quite long, and I am trying to keep my videos to at least under an hour. So you can see what I'm doing anyway. You can see how this is going together. It's basically it's going to be like that. It's going to be quite a nice, safe power supply. Obviously, personally, I think this is safer than what would have come originally, because you obviously do have the mains isolation, and you do have a proper fuse, which if anything happens, you know, you can access the fuse, you can replace it. You don't have to go and buy a new power supply, which is basically what you'd have to do with the other one. So I'll pop back with you when I've got this all built back up, and we'll get it set up in my office and do a little quick demo with it. So hopefully back very shortly. Okay, we're back, and we're now back down in the office, and as you can see, I've basically got this thing all built up now. There's the power supply all made up. It's a nice case with a nice isolation switch on it. So you can, when you switch that switch, it kills the whole desk, kills all the power, rather than fanning about with a little remote switch on the back there. Excuse me. I find that a much better solution, really. Switch on there, and it looks quite neat and tidy, that. Now, I was just about to demonstrate this desk with my Quad 303, which is this here, which is it's an old vintage power amplifier. It's transistorized vintage power amplifier, and I've got that connected up to some Rogers LS3 monitor speakers, like bookshelf monitor speakers. Very, very, very nice pieces of kit. Unfortunately, I was setting all this up to do the video, and the Quad 303 let out the magic smoke. Now, I will fully admit that is basically the 303, this tape recorder and my LS3s were all salvaged from an e-waste skip in one of the venues that the company I work for used to do work. It was literally all going to e-waste, and that was over 10 years ago now. And I must admit, I've never done any work on this. I've just used it, and it really has been begging out to have a service, and it is, like I said, it's let out the magic smoke. And as all us engineers know, all this electronic stuff runs on smoke, and when the smoke escapes, it stops working. So I think we're going to be doing a video coming up where we service the old Quad 303 and get it back up and running, because I do love that amplifier connected up to them speakers. But just so I can actually show you this desk, now it's all finished, I've hooked it up to these old PC speakers. They work fine, they're actually quite nice speakers, but they just got a patch on the Quad 303 and the LS3s that I was going to say LS9 before? No, they're not LS9s, they're huge things. They're LS3s, Rogers LS3s. They're not a patch on that, but we can at least show you that the desk now is fully operational. I've got my old Pioneer 606 reel-to-reel tape recorder hooked up as well, and I've got stuck a bit of Gilbert and Sullivan on there, so we can show you some of the things we can do with a desk like this. Anyway, let's get back down onto the desk. I've also got my tablet connected up to it. The whole idea of this is that I can use it to connect all three computers that I've got in this office up, and I can basically connect the sound cards. This thing's got what, 1, 2, 3. It's got 4 stereo channels on it, plus 2 mono channels, which obviously you can use as a stereo channel if you use both of them. So for what I want to use this desk for, it's absolutely perfect. It will allow me to connect all my computers in this room up to the one sound source, and just be able to select which one I want using the sound desk. And obviously, it's got your bass, treble controls, left, right, everything you'd want. Your gain controls are really more for use with microphones, when you're connecting a microphone up to it. It also has record output for it, so I can connect the record output from this up to the reel-to-reel tape recorder. In fact, I think it's got 3 outputs on it. It's got a record level output, it's got a monitor output, and it's got the main stereo left and right output on it. So I can probably use the monitor output, which is also left and right. You can mono it, but I can perhaps put that into like the sound card of my main PC if I want to record anything off onto there. I'll probably connect the tape out on it actually up to my reel-to-reel here, and obviously the the standard output there, the stereo outputs, will go to the speaker, the amplifier and speakers I'm going to use in here, which, like I said, eventually will be that Quad 303 again, but we'll use these Hardin Carman PC speakers for the moment. But yeah, let's have a listen to it and see what see how good it is, because like I said, I'm quite pleased with this. I've got some of this crappy music off this tablet connected, so if we start the tablet going, and we'll give it some we'll give a bit of gain on here. As we can hear, that's working really nicely. That's the master volume. I won't play too much of it, but you can obviously bass, that's your mid, treble. You've got that on every channel. We'll turn that down because we don't want to be hit by the by copyright, because I don't know if that's copyrighted or not really. Let's turn that down a little bit. There's a little bit of hum there, but I think that's just the fact that I've got it all lashed up like this. There was no hum before when I was testing it in the workshop. What I will do is I'll fire up the old reel-to-reel player, and we'll play something through from the old reel-to-reel. So I think I've got this all queued up, so all we need to do is unpause it. There we go. And again, I've got that on the first channel. This is actually a mono recording, so what I've done, I've got it into both channels here, and this, it's a basically it's a stereo reel-to-reel player. It's 2-track. So I've got the first track is on this fader here. If you listen, you can turn that up, and that'll play nicely. What I can also do, if I turn that down, I can bring the second channel up, which is actually playing the reverse of the tape. It's playing the other track on the other side of the tape in reverse. Turn that down, so then we can bring this standard mono track back up. So as we can see anyway, the desk works really nicely. So I think the desk was an absolute bargain for the 18 quid, including postage, that I paid for it, and a little bit of faffing and fanning about to make that power supply for it. And I prefer this power supply to what would have originally been with it, because the original one didn't have a switch on it or anything. You plug it in and you just have a remote on the back of the desk to switch the desk off. But that leaves the power supply still energised, and you have to like go under the table and actually physically unplug the power supply to kill the power proper to it. So you've always got some voltage running through the transformer. With the way that I've built this power supply, if I do actually want to isolate it and switch it off properly, I just need to flick that switch on the front there, and that's the desk off properly. I'll just stop my reel-to-reel. So I'll just rewind that. This is a very nice reel-to-reel player, that. I've actually got its big brother in at the moment for repair for a customer. Which is the Quad 909. It needs a new set of heads on it, and we're currently trying to find a new set of heads for the 909. But that's my baby there. But anyway, I thought I'd show it you in its final home, which is going to be my office. It's like I say, it's a real shame that we couldn't show it playing on the Quad 303, but it does, on one plus note, mean we are going to be making a video at some point on repairing that, because they are sought after amplifiers. Like I say, it's not something I would have ever gone out and bought, because they're way above what I can be prepared to pay for one, even for a broken one. It was simply the fact that I got it for free because it was going into an e-waste skip is the reason I've got that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now, because this video is already far too long. So I hope you enjoyed that little venture through seeing whether we could get this old Yamaha sound desk working again. So I'll say thanks for watching and goodbye.